Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 9. The Road to Atlantis. The road to Atlantis has been found at the bottom of the ocean. 20 feet underneath the surface of the water off the coast of the Bahamas is a 1,500-foot-long cobbled road. It looks shockingly like an artificial pathway that was put down by human hands. Geologists are saying it's a natural formation. They're trying to dismiss the cobbled roads as nothing but an accident of nature. They say the road is built of angular blocks of beach rock, and each one is about 13 feet long. But the truth is that those 13-foot chunks of rock look as though they were carved perfectly to be used as paving stones. Scientists say the perfect symmetry is nothing but the result of water erosion. But the road runs parallel to a pair of smaller pathways that curve away from the main road at the end, as if leading to somewhere else. Have you ever been to the Bahamas and seen this road with your own eyes? Let me know in the comments. Every single feature of the Bimini Road suggests that it was made by human hands, but some people believe the road is evidence of the lost civilization of Atlantis. They think it's a paved highway, which could lead to ruins archaeologists haven't found yet. But it's an argument that's been dismissed time and time again by scientists since its discovery in 1968. The ones who discovered it were marine archaeologist Joseph Manson Valentine and his colleagues. They were also the first to speculate that the road may have been part of the city of Atlantis. Unfortunately, though, no other piece of the alleged city has ever been found. The official dating also doesn't make for a good case. In 1978, the University of Miami radiocarbon dated the rocks to determine Bimini Road is only 2,000 years old. However, Atlantis supposedly sank 12,000 years ago. It's true that there is a lack of scientific evidence to support the theory that Atlantis stood off the coast of the Bahamas. But at the same time, the scientific explanation doesn't make enough sense to convince everyone. It may not be Atlantis, but maybe the road leads to another lost city. And now for number 8. But first, I want to give a big shout out to Dark Samurai and Kimberly Moxley. Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. Number 8. The Yonaguni Civilization. There may have been a civilization off the coast of Japan that's never been identified, but there is a big piece of evidence off the coast of Yonaguni Island. A massive pyramid, not just a pyramid, but the ruins of an unknown complex. In 1986, a local diver, Kihachiro Aratake, was checking out some hammerhead sharks in the area off Okinawa. He recognized some strange formations that looked a lot like ancient architecture at the bottom of the ocean. Then, in 1992, Japanese scientists visited the area and realized they were looking at a monumental pyramid complex. These same scientists also identified 10 other structures in the vicinity and 5 more off the coast of Okinawa. The main ruin covers an area of about 900 by 500 feet, and the structures themselves look exactly like the ruins you'd expect to find in a sunken city. The Yonaguni Monument, as the pyramid structure has come to be known, is one of the most controversial sites in the world. This is mainly because scientists are willfully ignoring it. The Japanese government has made no attempt to uncover the truth of the monument, and most mainstream archaeologists don't even want to talk about it. Yet anyone with eyeballs can look at the pictures of the perfectly symmetrical contours of the pyramid and know it was made by human hands. So why is there such a big controversy surrounding the city that obviously stood here? Marine geologist Masaki Kimura claims that these formations are man-made. Some think that it's all that remains of a long-lost civilization, possibly built by Japan's prehistoric Jomon people, who lived here as far back as 12,000 BC. He argues that mainstream scientists don't want to change history. The last time the area was above sea level was over 10,000 years ago. If the Yonaguni Monument is confirmed as part of an ancient city, it could become the oldest city in the world. It would be even older than biblical Jericho, which might bother certain religious groups. The reason most scientists and researchers are not looking into it is because it's a geological formation. The site resembles natural formations found in other places around the world, such as Northern Ireland's Giant's Causeway. Whatever the case, if you're lucky enough to dive here and get up close and personal to the Yonaguni Monument, let us know how it goes. Number 7. The sunken city of Olos. Off the coast of the Greek island of Crete is a sunken town named Olos. The city was submerged when an earthquake caused the world to shift about 1800 years ago. But before it was destroyed, the city was occupied for roughly 1,000 years, and it was home to a civilization of archaic Greeks. Archaeological evidence has shown human habitation in Olos starting in the 8th century BC. Occupation continued during the Persian invasion of 480 BC. Then Olos kept developing as a powerful maritime port. The city also connected northern Crete with other islands in the Aegean Sea and the rest of the Mediterranean. Underwater excavations have revealed all kinds of fantastic features: roads, crumbled buildings, and foundations of unknown structures. Researchers from the Effort of Underwater Antiquities even found the remains of the defensive wall and tower that once protected the harbor. Coins have also been found dating from 330 BC to 280 BC with the head of Zeus on one side. Zeus was likely the patron god of Olos. Not much is known about the government or the inner workings of the city, but it was prosperous right up until the earthquake shook it into the water. Number 6. Lost Egypt. The lost city of Heraklion remained undiscovered off the coast of Egypt for 2,000 years. The city was established long ago in the 12th century BC. It had links to ancient Greece and to the last queen of Egypt, Cleopatra. Researchers think the city failed over a few centuries. Then earthquakes and tsunamis finished Heraklion off. The ground became unstable and liquefied, while at the same time sea level rose. By the 2nd century BC, Heraklion was mostly underwater. Some of it remained standing, but piece by piece it tumbled into the Mediterranean. By the time the Arabs took over Egypt in the 8th century AD, all of Heraklion had been claimed by Poseidon. The city was located 20 miles from the heart of Alexandria at the very edge of the sea. But these days, it's located 30 feet beneath the water in Abu Qir Bay. Heraklion was a big deal long before Alexandria was ever founded. It was the product of the powerful Egyptians at the end of the Nile Delta. Builders constructed the city on a group of adjoining islands in the delta, connecting individual sections with canals and harbors. There were once monumental temples and grand ferries here, and it was a very wealthy trading port that brought in tons of money for Egypt. So, with all the international trade that came into the harbor, the taxes collected here were immense. One of the greatest features of the city was the temple of Khonsu, son of Amun. But Hercules also had his own great temple here. In the 4th century BC, more sanctuaries appeared dedicated to Egyptian gods like Osiris and Isis. Ever since the city was discovered by marine archaeologist Frank Gaudio 30 years ago, scientists have been busy recovering the waterlogged history of this great place. They've already brought up plenty of statues and artifacts from the depths, recovering pieces of Egypt's lost civilization. Would you ever volunteer to go on an expedition to uncover a long-lost city that sunk into the ocean? Let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, be sure to subscribe. Number 5. The Doggerland Civilization. At the end of the Ice Age, a great melt happened. For over 10,000 years, the ice that had gripped the world slowly melted, and as this happened, the sea level gradually rose. Vast pieces of land were lost, including a big chunk of habitable territory in the North Sea called Doggerland. This piece of land was located between England and Europe, and it used to connect the British Isles with the mainland. Starting 18,000 years ago, England, Ireland, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Belgium, all these pieces of land were connected. But by about 9000 BC, Ireland was an island, but England was still connected to France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Many researchers believe that there was a civilization who lived on this piece of land, and around 10,000 BC, there may have even been a civilization living more north too, in the area that's currently the North Sea to the west of Denmark. The issue is that the sea levels rose so much that England is no longer connected to the mainland, and Doggerland is totally underwater. But is there any proof that a civilization lived here? Well, throughout the 19th century, people in the fishing industry kept finding weird bones in their nets. Animal bones from bears, mammoths, and woolly rhinos that you wouldn't expect to find at the bottom of the ocean. The bones weren't fossilized either. They were just resting down at the bottom of the seabed. And this is proof that the animals got wiped out rather quickly, perhaps by a flood. The big theory right now is that Doggerland may have been the location of Atlantis 12,000 to 14,000 years ago. The ruins of a city could be hiding somewhere in the North Sea, just waiting to be found. Number 4. Mu. James Churchward published a series of books in the early 1900s about a lost continent where he believed an ancient civilization had prospered. According to James, he learned of the civilization while acting as a British soldier in India. He became friends with a temple priest who revealed to him a collection of mysterious tablets. The priest claimed that the tablets were written in a dead language called Naga Maya, and the high priest also said the tablets were written by mysterious people who were wiped out when their land flooded and their city sank to the bottom of the sea. James believed that he was able to translate the tablets in English, and in the books he wrote, which were supposed to be scientific volumes rather than fantasy, he transcribed what the tablets said. They discussed the creation of the planet and the superior human race. He called these people the Nakal and dated their origin to about 50,000 years ago. The continent of Mu had 64 million people distributed through 7 major cities, but they all followed a single government and a single religion. They prospered until 12,000 years ago when Mu was unexpectedly flooded. The flooding happened in a single night, but it wasn't just water that devastated the Nakal. There was also a volcanic eruption and a series of earthquakes that broke the land apart. There isn't much scientific evidence to support the existence of Mu or the Nakal, but James Churchward claimed Mu was originally in the Pacific Ocean. He also said that the survivors of the cataclysm were the forefathers of the great civilizations like Egypt, India, and the Olmec. Churchward claimed the last king of Mu was named Ra, which is where the Egyptian god gets his name. He also said because all civilizations of the world came from Mu, it makes sense why certain symbols are the same across the globe. For example, the Eye of Ra can be found all over the world. What do you think of this myth? Let me know in the comments. Number 3. The Celtic Otherworld. According to ancient Celtic legend, Cantre'r Gwylod was a great land that stretched from the edge of what's now Cardigan Bay in Wales out into the sea. It was governed by someone named Gwyno Garanhir from their majestic palace. I'm sure that's not the right pronunciation, but you know what I'm saying. Although the city was located slightly below sea level, it was protected by high walls. The ocean couldn't get in unless something went horribly wrong. And legend has it that something did indeed go terribly wrong. On a stormy night, high spring tides broke through the sea gates and flooded the city. Everyone was forced to flee inward, and Cantre'r Gwylod was washed away like a sandcastle at high tide. Most historians believe the sunken city is nothing but an old Welsh myth. But could Cantre'r Gwylod have been a real place? Is the destroyed seawall submerged somewhere in Cardigan Bay waiting to be discovered? Unfortunately, until more work is done, nobody can be sure. Number 2. Underwater Mysteries of Cuba. Graham Hancock is the leading fringe scientist right now. He's written plenty of books on the theory of human origins, and recently Graham earned the scorn of mainstream archaeologists for his Netflix show, Ancient Apocalypse. In one of Graham's books, he talks about the mysterious submerged structures that have been found across the globe, and every site that he talks about is no deeper than 395 feet below sea level, except for one. Ever since Homo sapiens have existed, the global sea level has never fallen below 395 feet. And that's why when researchers Paulina Zalitsky and Paul Weinsweig discovered submerged ruins 2,300 feet deep, scientists were suspicious, to say the least. If the sea level never got that low during human existence, how is there a city that deep? Some scientists have suggested it may have been a tectonic event that plunged the mysterious city into the far reaches of the ocean. But another hypothesis is that the city wasn't built by humans at all, but by a different species of intelligent beings who lived on Earth millions of years ago. And an even crazier theory is that the city was built by aquatic apes. You're likely wondering what city I'm even talking about. The alleged ruins were discovered in 2001 using sonar images. Researchers picked up pictures of a structural complex just off the coast of the Pinar del Rio province in Cuba. Pauline and Paul were part of a Canadian expedition working on a survey with the Cuban government. But they hadn't anticipated discovering pyramids and stone structures at an impossible depth in the ocean. This was a real discovery that came under massive scrutiny after it was announced. Paul and Pauline went back to the site a second time with a remotely operated vehicle, and they took more sonar images of what looked like artificial structures. But once the images were released, they were trashed by mainstream scientists. Senior editor at National Geographic, John Echave, essentially said it would be impossible to characterize the ruins until someone physically descended to the site. Robert Ballard, a professor of oceanography, said something similar. He stated that looking at a sonar is like looking at an ink blot, and often people see what they want to see. The consensus among scientists is that the city couldn't have been built by human hands, but the sonar images do seem to show a city off the coast of Cuba. It's a real catch-22. And since the initial discovery in 2001, there has been almost no mention of the site. Number 1. Kumari Kandam. Kumari Kandam is the name of a legendary lost continent located between India, Africa, and Australia. Legend has it the continent was originally connected to Madagascar, with its northern tip just touching the southern shores of India, and in the east, it made contact with Australia. Ancient Tamil texts mention a series of kings who ruled over the continent for 10,000 years before it was submerged beneath the Indian Ocean. In the 2nd century work Silapadikaram, it's written that the sea swept away the land. As the continent was sinking, the powerful Pandyan kings ushered their people farther north until they were up in India, which they then conquered in the south. But there is very little evidence to support the legend of Kumari Kandam. One of the few pieces of potential proof is something called Adam's Bridge. It's a chain of limestone shoals that stretches 18 miles from the edge of Sri Lanka to mainland India. Some scientists argue that the bridge is nothing but a natural formation, but when you look at satellite images from NASA, it's fairly clear this was an artificial structure built to connect the two pieces of land. Adam's Bridge looks like it was damaged in a flood, but could the bridge really have been used to connect India with a lost continent? Or was it just for easy travel between Sri Lanka and India? Thanks for watching! Do you think Atlantis is real? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one. Bye!